The following is a presentation of the Belly Up Sports Media Network.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of Rising to the Occasion. We're very excited to have you and excited to have a new guest on the show, a very special guest, a man who has played hockey for quite some time, and he's also coached hockey all over in different states and all over the world, in different countries even. His name is Pat Curcio. Pat, it's great to have you on the show.
Thanks, Josh. Thanks for having me. Excited to be here and talk hockey and everything that's going on.
Yeah, absolutely. We are a pretty big hockey podcast. We don't cover just hockey; we cover all sports, but hockey is one of the big ones for us. We had a blast covering the past NHL playoffs and stuff like that. I feel like this past playoffs was one that really got a lot of people back into hockey. If they weren't into it at all, it got them into hockey for the first time. It was a very exciting year. So it's an exciting sport, and I know you've got a love for the game that you've had for quite some time.
Yeah, absolutely. It started way back, probably just as I learned to walk. I learned to start skating, and it's been my passion since I can remember nothing else. Watching the Toronto Maple Leafs on TV in the late '70s. So
yeah,
I remember the days well.
So did you grow up as a Toronto fan?
I did. I grew up with a big Leaf fan, and we never really had great teams. We had a couple teams that had a couple good playoff runs. I remember '93 really well with Doug Gilmour. That was exciting when they lost to LA. We had a really fun time watching all those games. But yeah, I spent the life as a Leaf fan.
Yeah. So you guys kind of had a disappointing fizzle at the end of the season this year, huh?
Yeah, I was in Florida. I got to see the games. I went down to watch them at Live Arena here in Florida, and Florida, they just between their goaltending and their defense, and obviously Kachuk was unbelievable, just such a clutch guy this playoff. That they were just better. They were just better. They found ways to be better, and what an exciting run for them.
Yeah, that was something too that we kind of explained, was like it was just weird with Florida because they're this team. Usually they're put into the playoffs. Like if we back up a season ago, they were put in the playoffs as a number 1 seed. So they're kind of expected to be in that position. But this year it seemed like they had to fight and claw their way into the playoffs. And so they were already on that roll going into the playoffs. And then, being able to take down Boston, that was a huge victory for them. And then being able to go into the second round and handle business there. And it just seemed like they got better and better. And of course, a disappointing end of the season for them as well. But to make it as far as they did, I think that's still a very successful season.
It was unbelievable. I can tell you a story. I was having dinner with Rick Dudley and Les Jackson. So Rick used to be the GM of Florida. Now he's director of player personnel. And Les Jackson, who was GM with Dallas for years, and now he's he's assistant to the GM in Florida. He's got some particular work. But we were in Prague, Czechoslovakia, late February, early March, just before the final stretch here. Both of those guys were not even sure the team was going to make the playoffs at that time. So just to give you an example, because I was like, well, let's meet in Florida. And they're like, well, we don't even know if we're going to make the playoffs. We got a tough road ahead of us. And, I think they got in the last couple of days of the regular season. So just to show you what they did was incredible. It really was.
Yeah, that's awesome. I guess, Pat, let's start off with you. Let's kind of get to know you. I guess you kind of told us a little bit. You're from Canada, but where are you from?
So I was born in Toronto, just North York area, and then we moved to Georgetown, Ontario when I was quite young, and then back to Toronto where we played minor hockey with the Toronto Red Wings growing up, and then from there, I left home when I was 16, went to play pro hockey in Italy when I was 16 to become Italian, and I came back to play junior for the Ottawa 67s. Had a little stint with Prince Albert in the WHL, the Western Hockey League, and then went pro in Dallas, where I played for the Dallas Freeze, and that was unbelievable because we had such a big crowd, such a big fan base. That's why the Minnesota North Stars moved down there.
Yeah.
And then went to a couple training camps, played a little bit in the ECHL, and then went back to Europe. Played a year in Milan, and then the European borders. At that time, the world was changing. It was the Euro was coming in, the borders were opening up, and everyone with European passports were being bought by every country that was allowed to have European players as non-imports. So I ended up getting into Germany, where I played until about 2001. So went from about 1989 maybe to 2001, kicking around everywhere I could. So it was a lot of fun, and My son was actually born in Hanover, Germany in 1999. So it's a long time ago.
That's a really cool and fun story too to think about. Just because I think people, a lot of times we think of hockey and it's really branched into the NHL. You either make it to the NHL or you don't, because I think that's kind of an American thing, because in college, in American football, you have college and you hope to make it to the NFL. If you don't make it to the NFL, you're probably really not doing much, other than maybe some of these smaller leagues, maybe an indoor football league or something like that, but nothing too major. Where in hockey, it really seems like there's a lot more, a lot wider, it's much broader of a realm that you can go a lot of places with it. And it's really exciting to kind of hear other guys' stories. My uncle, he was very big into hockey. I think he was one of the higher recruits here in Iowa whenever he was in high school, and really good goalie at the time, and didn't end up going and kind of fulfilling his career or anything like that, but ended up staying back with family and stuff like that. But it's always fun to kind of see where a lot of guys, and he's got friends that can tell stories about where all they've been. It's really fun to kind of hear how hockey can take young guys all over the globe.
Big time. Well, our business, is we're Optimal World Sports. We represent the majority of players that play overseas and in the KHL. And when you talk about it, it's such a global game. We're talking about Sweden, Finland, Austria, Italy, Switzerland, Germany, Czechoslovakia, Slovakia, UK, France, Denmark, Norway, Russia. All these countries have their own top leagues, and I'm probably missing a couple off the top of my head, but I don't even know if I said Finland. But and every league has so many imports they can have. Some leagues have an import rule that they can have as many as they want. So there's a huge market for these players that if they're not playing in the National Hockey League, they can have a much better lifestyle than kicking around the American League and the ECHL, make more money, play less games, and live in these beautiful parts of the world. So that's our business. Optimum World Sports started about 30 years ago. They represented me when I played. And, several years back, Brett Callaghan and Ron Chipperfield both were Edmonton Oilers in the early days. They started the company with Gary Seigo, and they wanted to retire. And I had just got fired from, I don't know, maybe my 20th coaching gig. And they're like, maybe it's time for you to consider doing this. You've been doing it your whole life. You might as well do it now, for real. And that's kind of how the whole thing started several years ago. I ended up taking over part of the company when they retired. So it's been a lot of fun. It's been a good 7-year run so far, and hopefully we can do it for the next 20 years.
Yeah, and you said something about just a minute ago about how you started skating as soon as you could walk. But did I hear it correctly that you're actually a first generation hockey player in your family, correct?
Yes, yes. So both my parents came from Italy. So I was the first, born in Canada. I was the oldest in my family. So hockey was never a thought on anyone's, radar. And,
Yeah.
I met some friends when I was probably 5, 6 years old that were neighbors down the street that were into hockey. And they got me into it. And the passion just fueled and never stopped. And, we were playing in the backyard rinks. We had a fire department behind our house. And they had this sphere that they used to, use for training. And it was kind of like a 2-foot block of concrete in a circle where they would put out fires and stuff. But in the winter, they would freeze it for the kids. And we had our own little skating rink in the back, not your typical pond, but it was the
Yeah.
fire department that made it for us. And we skated there day and night. I still remember jumping the fence from my backyard to get over to the top and go skate. And there was lights. They put lights up for us. And it was great. For years, we couldn't wait for that rink to be ready in the winter. So that's how it all got started. And the rest is kind of history, how my passion went from, playing to coaching to being the agent that I am now, and just helping players try to get them to realize their dreams and fall and pursue them. And, did it as a coach and now doing it as an agent. So it's fulfilling, really is.
Yeah, that's awesome. And I guess was there a point in your life where you feel like it was the central point that you kind of realized that hockey would be your lifetime career?
Not really. I mean, I think it wasn't easy. Like there was always
Hmm.
fights, there was times where you weren't sure you're going to get a job as a player. You weren't sure you're going to get a job as a coach. I could tell you some crazy stories, just how I became the coach with the London Knights, and Dale Hunter, Mark Hunter, and we had John Carlson, Nazem Kadri, John Tavares, Phil Veroni, Zach Ronaldo, man, the list of players that we had over the few years that are in the NHL. Pat Kane had just been drafted first overall. Sam Gagner was just drafted fifth or sixth by the Edmonton Oilers. So that was the time that I kind of got in. But I was coaching minor hockey with the Toronto Red Wings, and the owner, we had a fantastic year, and the owner bought the Pickering Panthers junior A team in Ontario. And he's like, I want you to come coach this team. The kids need some passion. They need some structure. And so I ended up taking the Bad News Bears, I guess you could call them, the Pickering Panthers. They were dead last. They hadn't made the playoffs in 6 or 7 years. And we ended up getting a team that made the playoffs. And we went, the first round went to game 7. We won in game 7. We played the longest overtime history game at the time. It was like 5 overtime periods. It was crazy. We went to game 7 in the semis. We won. We ended up losing in the finals. But through that playoff run, kind of really kickstarted things. And this was, I think, 2005. It's going way back, almost 20 years ago. And I was just talking to guys, and I heard the London Knights needed an assistant coach. Dave Gagner was there, who had coached against me in minor hockey, and Dave now represents Connor McDavid. And Dave's like, you got to go to the NHL draft in Columbus. I said, well, how am I going to get to Columbus? I mean, like Toronto, the draft's in 2 days. He goes, you got to find your way there, and you got to meet Dale. You got to just go find Dale Hunter and meet Dale Hunter. So at the time, I was like, okay, I'll do it. And I was still helping out Ian Pulver and John Walters, friends of mine from Will Sports at the time. They represent Tyler Seguin and a bunch of players, but they were just starting in the business. And one of their first clients was Dale Mitchell. And he was rated to go in the 3rd round of the Toronto Maple Leafs. And so Dale, I knew, and I said, Dale, I'm going to drive down to Columbus. I know you wanted to go to the draft. You weren't sure how you're going to get there. And he's in Windsor. I know he was in Mississauga. We were going to go through Windsor. He ended up playing for Windsor. And I said, I'll pick you up. And he goes, my mom wants to come. I said, okay, let's go. So the 3 of us jumped in the car and we drove to Columbus. Dale ended up being drafted by Toronto in the 3rd round. He was Toronto's first pick at that year because they didn't have a first and second. And I spent the first 2 days looking to track down Dale Hunter, just bump into him somewhere. And I met a guy named Randy Clark, who was Dale Hunter's best friend from Petrolia. They were farmers together. And I don't know how I got introduced to Randy, but the funny thing about Randy was we always joke around that Randy was my agent. But Randy, I started telling him, we were having a beer, and I said, I need to meet Dale. He goes, oh, he's going to be here. Just stick around. So I waited at this bar for Dale for about 5 hours till Dale Hunter walked in. And sure enough, he walked in. I went right up to him, had a beer with him. We started talking hockey. We sat there and talked hockey till about 2 in the morning. I must have bugged Dale from that moment. The draft was the end of June. I bugged him every day from the end of June till the end of July until finally he called and hired me.
Wow.
So that's how I got in with the London Knights. And then the rest was kind of history. But, you have to be persistent. The game really, unless you're a first round pick, and even a lot of them have had some hurdles, you've got to stay true to yourself. You've got to work hard. You've got to be persistent is a key I like to use all the time. You're going to get shot down more times than you can ever imagine. And you got to keep getting up and keep trying to get in there and find ways. As a player, it's the same thing, and until you get to where you want to go. So that was kind of the kickstart for my coaching career.
Yeah, that's an awesome story too, to know that, it just came from you just sitting there and bugging, because I think a lot of times, at least for my personality, I'm kind of that way, where I feel that, I'll reach out to somebody once, and if I don't hear back from them, I feel awkward reaching out a second time. Should I reach out again? And I'll go ahead and reach out that second time, but I really don't want to bug them to the point where they just completely ignore me. But you're right. I think persistence is the key, because it's the answer's already no, and that's kind of what my dad always taught me when I was younger. I'd always sit there and kind of shy around asking a question or something like that, and he'd tell me, why are you so shy about asking a question if the answer's already no if you never asked it. So yeah, that's right. A really cool story that you're able to kind of bug him enough for him to finally kind of give in. But Pat, you've played all over the globe. You've played in a lot of different places, both America and all over Europe, and all sorts of really cool places. For either your playing career or your coaching career, what was your favorite place to play?
Oh, man, we got some great stories. I don't know if you have enough time on this podcast, but the Hanover Scorpions was unbelievable because oh man, where do I start? The stories are endless. So I was playing in Ravensburg, Germany, which was the Zweite Bundesliga at the time, which means the second league. And the Hanover Scorpions they were the Wedemark Scorpions at the time, were their first year in the DEL, which is the Erste Bundesliga at the time. Now it's the DEL. And I had a bunch of guys on that team, and the team was struggling. And they're like, if you can get from Ravensburg, just get up here, you're going to play. So I had a contract in Ravensburg, which is in the south in Germany, near Munich and Bavaria, and Hanover is closer to the top near Hamburg. And you're probably talking 6-7 hours on the train. And I had gone in to see the coach at the time. He was a guy from Manitoba. And oh man, the name, I can't remember the coach's name, but I said, look, I got to make this team. I need to get up there. I need to just get on the train and go play for the Hanover Scorpions. My buddy told me if I just show up, they're going to give me a chance. And he's like, you're crazy. You're making like $50,000 here. You're just going to throw that away to go try out with the team. I said, yeah, but I know I can make it, and I got to just go. Sure enough, I left Ravensburg. Everyone thought it was nuts. I took the train up to Wedemark. I literally got off the train and that morning. I had left at midnight, so it was like the red eye. I got up, practiced with the team, played the next night in Wedemark, ended up spending the next 5 years there. But the GM ended up becoming my very good friend, and he would come to Toronto where we'd sign players. And one of the biggest sponsors was the rock band, the Scorpions. They rocked me like a hurricane, so we were with them all the time. It was unbelievable. Rudolph Schenker, the lead guitarist, and oh man, the stories were crazy. But it was an unbelievable run. That's where my son was born. We still do work with Hanover today. We have players on their team now. They're still going. They went from the DEL. Now they're in the third league, but they're trying to win and move their way back up. But you're talking almost 25 years ago, maybe longer now. But,
Yeah.
And so it's incredible. But Hanover was a great experience. A lot of friends, a lot of memories. The coach that coached us there, Kevin Gaudette, he's still coaching there in Hanover. He's obviously had many different stops from between when I played and now, but somehow he's found his way right back to Hanover. So, the stories it was an unbelievable place to play. It really was.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I've had quite a few friends from Germany and stuff too. So even knowing just in the Hanover area and stuff like that, that would definitely be one of the cooler places to visit. Let alone being able to play there, coach there, be a part of a team there too. That sounds like a blast. I've also seen in some research that you were a part of maybe even finding or I guess being the founder or president, and then also the head coach of a team out in San Francisco. I guess kind of tell us about that. What all goes into starting up a franchise and kind of helping build it from the ground up?
2010, I had coached. I moved, left the London Knights. I left the London Knights because a good friend of mine was going to buy the Las Vegas Wranglers, and he said, "I'm buying the team. It's a done deal. You're going to be coaching GM. Put in your resignation with London, and going to take care of you." So shook his hand. Whole deal was going to be done. And about 3 months into the whole process, this is, I want to say June 2009, we fly to Vegas, we meet with the owners, everything looks like it's going to happen. One hiccup is the Orleans Arena, which is still there today. They would not renew the lease past the following 2 years. So there was 2 years left in the lease, and they didn't want to renew it. They wanted to get past those 2 years. Well, the owner that agreed to buy the team and hire me as the GM coach was like, we cannot continue with this purchase without a lease. Where are we going to play? Anyways, over the next 60 days, the deal fell apart. He had agreed to pay me still for the 2 years, but I had no job. So my good friend Kevin Colley was in Utah. He says, I need you. Come coach with me in Utah. Same league. You'll get to know Vegas. We played them 20 times, kind of crazy thing. So I got in my car and drove to Utah. It was crazy, but the story is crazy. Is that the first 2 weeks in Utah, I bump into my wife, who's now my wife, at the airport. I stay in Utah. 2010, after that year, we start talking again to the league about a new franchise. My wife and I were sitting at the kitchen table, and we're like, where would it work? And we knew Stockton was successful. We knew San Francisco had a big hockey fan base, and the only problem, again, we probably should have learned the Cow Palace wasn't the perfect place to have a hockey team. It was such an old barn. But from there, we started. And man, it was a lot of work, from the name to the colors to getting the ownership group together, building the team from scratch, finding the NHL partnerships, the affiliations we found with San Jose. We did it all. And it was a lot of work, but it was an unbelievable experience for a few years. And it was too bad because we had a great thing going and we knew the American League was going to come out to the West. We just couldn't hang on with the ownership group we had, and the state of California was very difficult to deal with at the time, and we couldn't keep the team going. But it was a great experience. It was I could say a lot of money was lost, unfortunately, but it was a great experience. And I see now Lake Tahoe is going to get a team in Nevada. I think Nevada is a much
Oh, really?
better state for yeah for the ECHL just because the state for doing business, I guess. But
Yeah.
it was an unbelievable experience, and we ran it all. It was coach, GM. I was even driving the Zamboni. I was painting the
Wow.
ice. We built the scoreboard. We bought the merchandise. We went out and sold season tickets. We were in the media every day. It wasn't just coaching the team. That was the easy part.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was everything else. We did it all. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, it's really cool too to just think of what it would take to just get a franchise started up. Right now I'm right around Sioux City area, and I've
Hmm.
seen quite a few different sports teams try to start up in Sioux City, and it just, of course, this isn't a big market at all, so it's not going to be easy to start it up in a smaller market like this. But to go to a big market like that in San Francisco, it's really cool to kind of see how much work it would take to kind of build everything from the ground up like that. That's really cool and really fun to hear about too. And like you said too, it's really cool that you were able to have some good experiences through it and everything too, and kind of look back on
We
those
met
days as,
everybody.
as good old memories.
Oh man, for sure. We met everybody. We were at the San Francisco Giants games. We met the president, and we were on their wall behind home base, or the boards behind home base. We had meetings with the mayor. The mayor came, and wife escorted the mayor onto the ice. He's dropping the puck. Like, we had everybody. Like, it was the perfect storm. And the NHL went on strike. The first game was sold out, 9,000 fans. It was 2012. That was October 2012. It was great, and we deserve a lot of credit that people don't really give us credit for what we built there. But it was an incredible franchise, incredible team, incredible group of people. We still represent guys that played for me, guys like Brett Finley, that were on the team. And back then, he was just a young guy coming out of junior. He's still playing pro now in Europe. We represent him. Guys like Riley Brace, who now is an American League Hockey League referee. So there's so many guys that are still going from the San Francisco days. But it was a lot of great memories.
Yeah, and I think hockey's one of those sports too that it's kind of building relationships in pretty much every stop you make too. That's what I've learned from different hockey players that I've known and that I've talked to, is just hearing how they only played for 6 months over maybe in Mankato, but they made so many not even just friends, but what they would consider family now. On just how close knit the hockey world is, it's really cool, and you've even mentioned some names that
100%.
I know too. I know just a little while ago you mentioned Sam Gagne, and he actually came from
Yeah,
the USHL league. He was playing for the Sioux City Musketeers here, so that was
that's
kind of
right.
cool, and kind of knew him a
The
little
year
bit
before
back
London
then.
Knights.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah. So
that's
so and
right.
it's
Yeah.
it's really cool to see how small of a world it is whenever you talk about the hockey world, and how it just seems like so many people are kind of integrated with one another, and you may not even know it. But
Yeah, 100%.
kind of going into it now, so you said now you're a sports agent currently. For those of us who are fans, we kind of look at the season. The season starts here and ends here. But for an agent like yourself, the season doesn't ever really end. You're kind of constantly trying to help out and work out different deals and constantly doing things. Is right now maybe the busier part of your I guess off season?
Oh man, it's crazy. This is my call list that I make every morning for myself. There's about 20 players on there, several GMs. So it's nonstop. We're on the
Yeah.
phone here. My other phone's going crazy with text messages. It's nonstop. And everyone asks, well, what's the busiest time of year? Well, for us, it's kind of annual, really. I mean, we have, there's always a certain amount of players that you're signing, for the following year. So to give you an example, in Europe, February 15th for most countries is the deadline. After that day, you can't sign another player for the current season. So as soon as that day comes and goes, all the teams really start focusing on the following year. So it starts from February 15th until the following February 15th. Teams always trying to sign players, get better, move players, not happy with players, someone gets hurt, whatever. It's nonstop, right? It's not just building your team and you're done. You're always making changes as a GM. Try to improve everything you can do to that last minute to try to make your team better is what we do every day. We're working with these teams, and we all have I have a few partners with Gary and Dave, and Sully here and Dimitri. We all have our markets, but we have a chat that's just going nonstop, and so it's pretty hectic.
Yeah, yeah, that's crazy. Yeah, because like I said, for fans, we know when the season starts and when it ends, and we're just ready for the off season to just get over with. Where players and coaches and agents, you're kind of constantly working. You've got something constantly to get ready for, and it's really cool to kind of see the behind the scenes. Like you said, the list. A lot of us we just think, well, that's the off season for you. You can go off and go to the Cancun and kick it back on the beach and
Yeah,
have yourself a nice cola
right.
and chill out. But no, it's not quite the case. But
Not
uh,
at all. Not at all.
so I've seen tons of posts from you and social media, especially since learning more about you and getting you on as a guest. I've seen a lot of posts from you about cryptocurrency, and I've looked into it. I've gotten into cryptocurrency a little bit myself, and so I've
Hmm.
kind of known a little bit about it. Anyways, I've got a basic knowledge of it. But you're kind of getting into a different form of cryptocurrency where you're actually trying to help players get paid into cryptocurrency. You're part of a team that's kind of moving that direction. Can you kind of tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I guess the easiest way to tell you is we're trying to bring teams into Web 3 to teams. Basically, the fantastic technology of Web 3, we want to be able to bring all those benefits to these pro clubs. And one of them, of course, is paying players in crypto. If you're into crypto, you know how easy it is to move money. I can have a player in Russia, his wife can be in Iowa, send money instantly via crypto. You connect it to your wallet now. I could have it connected to my bank account. I mean, it's seamless transactions. You don't need banks. You don't need borders. You don't need to pay all these fees. You don't have to lose money in exchanges, currency exchanges, million different reasons why it's amazing. But there were so many other factors, but that was the initial thought process. But now bringing Web 3 to the teams and the benefits of all the Web 3 to the teams, it's real exciting. We're going to give teams the ability to create digital assets, things like NFTs that will have utility. Teams can do things like if they offer these NFTs, fans can get in to vote on the starting five lineup. They can vote on the 3 stars. They can get discounts on merchandise. They can do things like get into VIP rooms, come to events to meet the players that are unique, open practices, all kinds of different things that we can create for the clubs, and that's what we're starting to see now. And we know the shift is happening, and we can do things like tickets. Teams can now go directly to fans and create tickets for them. They don't have to go through third parties like Ticketmaster and all these other things that charge these teams massive fees. So all these benefits we're bringing with Web 3 to the clubs, and not easy to make change, but I think that when you start to see some of the clubs implementing these digital assets and creating live moments, guys scoring an overtime goal, all of a sudden that video gets minted. It's one of a kind. It's an NFT. They're able to put it up for auction. Fans are going to want that stuff. So we're excited about what we're doing. And it's right up my alley here to try to help these clubs create new revenue streams and create greater fan engagement with their fans. Who without the fans, what are we? We have nothing. They're so important. So it's important that we're able to engage with them and do things like this that I think is going to bring them closer to us.
Yeah, and I think a lot of people have at least heard of cryptocurrency. I think it's been, rapidly growing, and like you said, I do see some future into cryptocurrency. But maybe for those who aren't as familiar with it, maybe if you're an Office fan at all, explain it to me like I'm five. Just kind of
Yeah.
explain how the cryptocurrency, because a lot of people, I think they look at it and they get confused with the cryptocurrencies, because if you think of things like Ethereum or Bitcoin and some of
Hmm.
these major cryptos, they're constantly moving. So if you were to
Hmm.
pay, a lot of people might have the understanding that if you were pay a player, let's say five Bitcoin today, tomorrow it might not be worth that. And so how does that kind of go into the process and the planning for paying these players?
Yeah, so the idea would be not to pay them in Bitcoin or Ethereum or Polygon or Solana or any of these cryptos. There's stable coins that are tied to the US dollar, for example, like USDT or USDC. And so because they're tied to the US dollar, their fluctuation is just par with the dollar. So they trade just like a cryptocurrency. They move just like cryptocurrency on the blockchain. They're tokens. but you'd pay players in USDC, so they wouldn't have that volatility. So if a guy was making 100,000 US dollars, he's making 100,000 US dollars getting paid in USDT. Same thing, right? If it's euros, you can have the euros has a stable coin that's pegged to the euro, so you don't have that fluctuation. So that's what we would recommend, unless there's been some players that wanted to be paid in Bitcoin. There's a few football players that did, and luckily it's coming back now. I think maybe the worst. I hope the worst is over, but there were some volatile times here the last 18 months, and so that's basically what we would recommend to players. You get paid in a stable coin that is not volatile, so you're not going to lose any money or you're not going to make any money. Just that's what you're getting paid in US dollar, exact same thing. So that's what we would say, and then you control it with your own wallet, and that's the easiest way to explain it. And then cryptocurrency moves on the blockchain. It's fully disclosed. You can go on the blockchain, see every transaction. It is truly an amazing technology. I mean, I'm a big believer that if you ever had to move large sums of money, you really realize how beneficial crypto is for moving money around the world. And us in the US and Canada or Europe even, we're fortunate. We have banks and all these things, but if you go into some of these countries, Africa, Japan, China, it's not easy. With Bitcoin, they're able to really have control of their finances. So it's an exciting technology, and I think it's the future for sure.
Yeah, that's really cool. Really, really exciting, and just interesting to see how much the future is really already here. And it's crazy to think that when I was younger, when I was a kid, some of the things that we have nowadays that is just kind of mind-boggling, and even backing up just before my time, and the things that I've seen, I feel like my generation has definitely seen it all kind of coming to light, and seeing what the future is actually bringing, and cryptocurrency being one of them. It's really cool to hear that you and many other people are trying to work to kind of bring this kind of to light, to make sure that players can kind of get paid in a way, like you said, it's much simpler, much faster. It's just a better way of payment for them. So that's really cool to kind of hear you explain that, and all the work that's kind of being put into it. But Pat, I think that's pretty much
really exciting.
Yeah, absolutely. But Pat, I think that's pretty much all we have for you today. I really thank you for coming on the show.
Awesome.
I guess, do you have any shout outs that you want to give, or anything you want to kind of give a shout out to that maybe we didn't get to?
No, I just thanks for having us, and myself, especially, and it's always exciting to talk hockey, talk stories, talk about Locker Token and Web3 and everything we're doing, and we're excited to just move this all forward.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it was great to have you on. It's always fun to hear the stories kind of behind the scenes from other people that have actually been there in different leagues and stuff like that, and it was definitely a blast to have you on. But for everyone watching,
awesome.
listening,
Well, thanks for having me.
Yeah, absolutely. For everyone watching, listening, we thank you so much for all of your support. Make sure to go follow us on social media. If you're watching on YouTube, hit that like button, hit that subscribe button. Go ahead and hit that notification bell. If you're listening on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, wherever you listen to podcasts, give us a 5-star review. That is the greatest way to help us out. We thank you all for watching, for listening, and until next time.